Hello, everyone, and welcome to Film Talk, the Film Digest audio podcast where we talk about cinema news and basically just movies. I am your host, Brenny Jimenez,
And I'm Henry Gonzalez.
and today we are going to do our very first episode. Let's go.
So, Brandon, where did you want to start us off today? I remember you saying that you wanted to bring up Knives Out, right? Last time we talked a little bit about Glass Onion, and you wanted to carry a review about the original predecessor, Knives Out, but we didn't have the time to do it. So, why don't we get everything out today? What's your opinion on it?
Definitely. I watched the movie around like two weeks to a month ago, and I really loved the movie. And I gotta say, it reminded me of a student film, but just produced very well.
Right, I see what you mean. It was more raw, right? The acting was best. The directing was practically invisible. By the way, kudos to Rian Johnson. He did a fantastic job directing that film.
He
And
makes good movies.
I think the movie was extremely vibrant. I think it stuck to its strengths,
Mhm.
to its core themes. The mystery plot was super well done. The characters were incredibly well written, and I think that the movie was all in all super well fleshed out.
What I like about Rian Johnson is his experience. His experience is definitely a unique one, directing Breaking Bad, making the movie Brick and Looper and all that stuff. But I just think that now that he's starting his own like franchise a bit, Knives Out, he just has a good direction on where he's going. He's worked on good projects. He makes good movies. He doesn't make bad movies.
Right.
So Knives Out was definitely a great start to his whole franchising career.
Right, but I think also that could be his downfall by trying to franchise on Knives Out. I think that he could lose his pacing a bit. And honestly, my opinion of what Glass Onion could be, it's kind of split down 50-50. It could either be a very well made sequel, it could be trying to carry off the story because it's not a direct sequel. It's going to be a spin-off. It's kind of like Murder on the Orient Express
Yeah.
with what they did with
Death on the
Death on the
Nile,
Nile. They'll be trying to get the same exact detective in a different plot now. So I'm thinking maybe they could try to build on top of that mystery, make it better, create new characters. I think that this movie could be better than the predecessor. It has the potential, but it also has the potential to try and imitate its predecessor in fear of it being not so good.
Well, I see what you mean, Henry, but I think this stance could give us a little more about what's his name, Daniel Craig's character.
Right.
What's
his name? Benoit Blanc?
Benoit Blanc. I think
Right.
if we go into his character a lot more, we can also like focus more on his development.
Right.
That's-
I think as the core character of both movies, he could definitely prove to be like the unifying theme of these movies, the element that drives both of these movies, these
Yeah.
mysteries.
He's the only recurring character coming in from Knives Out.
Right.
What I think is going to make this movie pretty good is that we have such a different change of pace. You know, last
Right.
movie was on a house, and this movie's focused on a boat. So this is kind of different. We're getting into an aspect that's completely different regarding,
Right.
the high class values.
I think we're getting to a point where it's like we understand that that the thing that made the first movie best was its originality. It was refreshing to see something new, and after such a long time of having dry mysteries, this movie gave us a breath of fresh air.
So with my vote, Henry, I don't think this movie's going to be bad. I know it's a 50-50, but I think
Right.
this movie's going to be good from the get-go.
Rian Johnson, we all know he has potential, and I think the key to success with Glass Onion is that it carries the same originality that Knives Out has.
Well, you have to think about Rian Johnson as well. His experience going into this, when he worked on Breaking Bad, he couldn't do the same thing twice, right? So I think Knives Out is just going to help him just break apart from another thing. And I'm going to go back to the class talk that I talked about. Knives
Right.
Out had like a history of the rich class with Anna de Armas serving as like the poor character. But
Right.
regardless, it was on rich class, and now we're getting into like maybe an even richer class.
It has the opportunities to be completely original. It's definitely going to be different from its first film. And I think so long as they carry that same originality they had in the beginning, not just Rian Johnson, but the writers too. I think
Yeah,
if they
definitely.
carry that same originality, the movie will be just as strong, if not better. By the way, going back to more Ana de Armas news, recently I found out that there's going to be a John Wick spin-off starring Anna de Armas.
Wow.
If you saw John Wick Chapter 3, I think what the plot's going to be on, there was a scene where they have ballerinas, right, in an underground world.
Yeah.
It's an interesting plot, and I think they're going to be exploring that starring Anna de Armas. They said that they're in the early developments, that they started filming, I think. And I think the spinoff could be starring Keanu Reeves as well. We're not sure yet. But since it's in early developments, we might be getting a trailer sooner or later.
Well, now going back to Rian Johnson, I feel
Right.
like he could have taken his inspiration for Glass Onion from the movie Death on the Nile, right?
Right.
It definitely had some of the same aspects, and it's a very like mystery boat movie. So what he could do, he could watch the movie and find the failures, because I really don't think this is a bad movie. I think he wrote it really well, and I think it's gonna be a good sequel. I don't think it's gonna be
One of
better
the-
than Knives Out.
Yeah, and it's typically one of the challenges that directors try to put upon themselves every time they make something new. It's try to pay homage to what the previous movies did before. Try to do that better, right?
Like
and
I
that's
said, yeah.
that's always been a challenge for directors, and I think Ryan Johnson's up for that challenge. But since it's being produced by Netflix, there is a possibility of there being studio interference, which is usually the death toll that creates bad movies. It's what happened to The Last Jedi in Star Wars, to Ryan Johnson's Star Wars film, where Disney had to interfere. I mean, it's honestly it's with studio interference. There's definitely a perennial fear that's just it's gonna stay there. It's gonna remain there forever. When you've invested in something that's worth millions of dollars as a studio, you want to make sure that what they're making is good, right? So that fear, right, that maybe these millions of dollars could turn out to be a total failure that you've invested yourself. When there's money involved, those studios will have to interfere,
So
and you can't blame them either, right? And Netflix has that history too. So that might affect Glass Onion unless they recognized that Ryan Johnson is a very creative director, and they allow him to have the same creative freedom that he used in Knives Out.
So you're talking about studio limitations, right?
Right. Studios definitely put limitations on directors for the sake of getting their money's worth.
I feel like Netflix, with at least Glass Onion, Netflix could undergo some changes, because he's working with T Street as well as Netflix.
Right.
So they could work together, since it's not just Netflix producing the whole thing. He has
Exactly.
T Street working with them. Their limitations could be set like to a different way. So I think I still want to stick with Knives Out, the Glass Onion being a pretty good movie. But on other notes, what have you got, Henry?
Well, oh yeah, and I remember Creed. Something we didn't talk about last time was Creed 3, and that's a huge movie that's going to be coming out.
Definitely.
I'm honestly super excited for it.
Creed 3. It's what's his name?
Jonathan Majors.
Jonathan Majors.
He's gonna be the villain.
And Michael B. Jordan, his directorial debut.
Oh yeah.
No, that's crazy, because
It's gonna be very, very cool.
I feel like it's a headline from Sylvester Stallone screenwriting Rocky
Exactly.
to Michael B. Jordan directing Creed 3. I feel
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna have that vibe. It's gonna have that creative freedom. You know a movie's gonna be good when everybody on that set, everybody in the cast, everybody behind the studio who's making the film, you know it's gonna be a good movie when all they care about is the movie.
so.
Not the money, right? Not that how they're gonna do best,
Mhm.
not like how they're gonna come out. It's more about how they're gonna make this movie the best it can possibly be.
I feel like with Rocky's reputation of being such a patriotic movie almost, I feel like
Right.
Creed is a passion project of Michael B. Jordan. It's his first. I don't think it's going to be bad, because it's his first directorial debut. And if I know anything about directors, they have to make their first movie really good, so that way their
Right.
what's it called, reputation.
It's
is
like
good.
it's like I said before. Directors always try to struggle with that. Not struggle. They always try to challenge themselves with that
Aspect,
with that. No, not aspect, but more like they challenge themselves every time they make something new. They
Definitely.
challenge themselves to make something that pays homage to the movies that came before, and that's definitely what Michael B. Jordan is going to be trying to do.
I feel that with Creed 3,
Right.
a little a little flaw in the movie was making the villain his childhood friend. As we saw in the trailer, Adonis Creed had
a childhood friend,
had a
Jonathan
childhood
Majors.
friend,
But
and he went to jail.
But I think that the way something Creed 3 could definitely work with is paying homage to the first Rocky, because it's like Adonis is going to be carrying on the legacy that Apollo left him, his father,
Definitely.
right? And if you've seen the first two Rocky films, you've noticed that there's definitely an aspect to both of those films where it's like the little guy beats up the big guy.
Yeah, it definitely has.
But we learned throughout the franchise that Apollo's not a bad guy. That he's the best wrestler there is, right?
I think
That he's the best boxer there is, and I think that something they could try and do. I think I've seen this in a theory video somewhere. I think that what they could try and do, the screenwriters, is make it so that after Adonis, like after Creed 2, Adonis is now the world champ, right? He's a huge boxer in the world, and now he's going to have that same threat that Apollo, his father, faced with Rocky. And Jonathan Majors is going to be the Rocky of that film. So now we're not going to know who to cheer for, right? That's something incredibly clever. That's something incredibly clever that the writers could try and do, right? And it's going to be hard to try and pay homage to the first film without Sylvester Stallone. This is a great, great way to make a callback to the first film, to the first two films, and continue the legacy of Creed.
Well, Henry,
right?
I didn't even think about it that way.
That is a super awesome way to think about it. And I'm excited for how Jonathan Majors is going to play.
I thought
he's going to fit into those shoes.
It was going to be like almost that flaw can make it a stereotypical friend comes back. And
right.
I
have to fight my best friend type stereotype.
But that is a good way to think about it, though. That is a very good way to think of it. I didn't even think about it that way.
Well, yeah, I mean, if the screenwriters definitely did, if they do that with this movie, I think it could definitely turn out to be the best Creed movie yet.
It could be just, basically the correct version of a Rocky reboot.
That's going to be the best possible sequel to the Rocky franchise.
On a good note, yeah, definitely.
And something else we didn't talk about last time was kind of old news, but still super, super cool. Hugh Jackman is coming back as Wolverine in Deadpool 3.
I'm excited for that now.
Right? And it's just, he's been constantly talking about how he got his role back. And I think after watching a few of these videos, he's super, super excited. He's carrying that momentum back into his portrayal of Wolverine.
I definitely think that that's going to be one of the funniest Deadpool movies. I don't know if it's going to gross as high as it should on Rotten Tomatoes, but definitely that movie's going to be hilarious. Going back into the Wolverine aspect of it, Logan was the last movie on Rotten Tomatoes. At least it was made a great movie.
I loved Logan, and I did feel like that would be a proper send off to Wolverine, but I think the best way possible to make Wolverine come back fluidly into the Deadpool fold is by making him exactly what he is, a comic book character. You have to kind of ignore what Logan left off on, because at the end, Ryan Reynolds himself said that these movies aren't related at all.
I mean, yeah,
that Deadpool's just going to make a play on.
Deadpool clearly came in one of the X-Men movies,
and that satiric effect could definitely apply to Wolverine, and I think that's the best way Ryan Reynolds could bring Wolverine back into the fold. I also heard that this could be the last movie of the trilogy for Deadpool.
Well, it's going to end on a good note, and I know for a fact that this movie's going to gross very well. Another aspect is Tarantino's book, Cinema Speculation.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, I got my hands on that book as soon as it came out. I'm super excited to start reading it. Thing is, I got my head in the books right now as far as schoolwork goes, and I'm super excited to start reading it. I think, despite its reviews, I think it could definitely prove to be one of the best perspectives to look at Hollywood.
I definitely think that Cinema Speculation is going to be an interesting book, delving on his personal essays and what he thought of as a kid.
Right.
I also think that his podcast with Roger Avery will benefit the justification of the book, maybe.
Right. And I'm definitely excited to see how he's written this book. I think it's going to be fantastic, and I do recommend to read this book for any cinema fans out there, for anybody who wants to research these movies quite like us.
Another cool thing about cinema speculation, the New Beverly Cinema, Tarantino's theater,
Right.
is showing all his favorites from Taxi Driver. Well, I don't even know.
Taxi Driver, Bullet,
all those movies.
Bunch of old Hollywood films that me and Brandon definitely loved, and that cinema speculation supposedly touched on. So
get your hands on that book if you want to delve into a great director's past. And This has been Film Talk with Brandon Jimenez
and Henry Gonzalez.
And we'll catch you up with Hollywood and movies and cinema next week.
Thank you for joining us, everybody.
Thank you for joining us, guys.